I ask you to roll up your sleeves because I came here to talk about people that are struggling, not process. But I get it, and I'm used to waiting. So that's why I'm not blowing my top. I guess I'll echo a little bit of people's frustration because I thought I was coming here to talk about a process to get to an outcome, not just talk about our frustrations. It's a little bit unfortunate, but I understand how we get there because we've had unprecedented engagement in the last couple of weeks and month about this topic. In my 13 years on the city council, there's one thing that I think we are really good at, regardless of who's sitting at this table, and that's pivoting when the public asks us to. And in fact, we did a pretty significant pivot this winter around tenant protections because of initiatives that had passed in other cities. Similarly, we did a pivot to create the Metropolitan Parks District when thousands of people came and asked us to buy the LBA Woods. All things that were written lightly in work plan, a little bit of work had been done, but when it was time to pull them off the shelf and put them in prime time, they became live, just like the committee attempted to do with minimum wage. And so my frustration is actually about the desire for the work that the committee is asking for to happen sooner. This conversation started in our committee live on September 16th. And the only thing that came out of it was an engagement plan for 90 days around minimum wage and separating a conversation about all of the worker Bill of Rights. The separation was actually my idea, and I'm happy now because we put them back together because I wasn't really sure about that separation, but the separation of the wage from the rest of the Bill of the Rights. And I think going forward, it's important for us to acknowledge that the requesters see them as all the same thing. But that the separation was because there's a really good set of academic research around minimum wage. The outcomes are clear, and there's plenty of examples of communities to compare ourselves to me. So to me, that felt like a more simple public policy conversation that the committee thought at the time, 90 days made sense. Obviously we were wrong because we got unprecedented engagement. We also realized as a committee that there's a lot more legal work that has to go into the rest of this. Like where does the city's power lie? Frankly, a lot of this, as the leaders in labor and many people in the legislatures, this conversation should be statewide. Like these conversations need to be the same and congruent from one labor force to another. Unless the workers are not getting their needs met, then it's up to us to step to the plate and try to have a conversation to help them, just like we would if a group of businesses came to us. So Olympia Strong for me has always been about minimum wage. We have 10,000 households in our community that are struggling to get by every single day. And last night, some awesome work, and I'm gonna just cite it at a high level because I don't know if we're gonna get the slide tonight from Jesse, but the utility advisory committee asked for like impact on wage and work. How much time do you have to work to pay the utility bill in Olympia? And Jesse Barnum found that the minimum wage in the Olympia workforce isn't there until the 20th percentile of income. 20% of our workers aren't even income earners because they might not be working the traditional ways, or they're under the table, are under that minimum wage. So Olympia Strong was actually because I said, let's talk about minimum wage again, again, and again, and again. 2018, we decided we were going to do an Olympia Strong process because that was the way to get there. Well, we got an Olympia Strong proposal that was awesome. It went out and it beat the streets and it heard from the community about their struggles and what they were needing. Similarly, I just talked to a local nonprofit in town who's been asking people similar questions because it's important to know, just like our businesses, to know where people are coming from and what they're struggling with every single day. You know, food in our town costs as much as rent and childcare. And so I feel like the Olympia Strong was a little bit to placate Cooper. It doesn't have any systemic change in it. It has a great list of wraparound supports for individuals and workforce development. All of them are expensive. And there's most of them we will not be in the lead in. I'm just looking at you, Mayor, because the line is funny, so I'm not talking to you on purpose. It's just, I wish this was curved. Um, and so I think it's just like, for me, that is what this conversation is. It's the systemic addition to Olympia Strong for the workers in our community. It's what the conversation has been about for me since I walked into this chambers for the first time. Now, there was a great editorial in the newspaper from a few of our nonprofit leaders. And it's interesting because I work for one of those nonprofits in my day job, and I love the fact that we're starting to agree on the data. Like, we're starting to agree on how big the problem is. And that right there is a win. A third or 43% of our community can't pay their bills. We should be talking about that every day. Like we're talking about 54% renters almost every day. So on the price side of that equation is what the editorial was about, and it was great. It talked about looking at, I think the Mayor Pro Tem mentioned this, looking at the tax equation, looking at house prices, childcare prices, food prices. You know, that's great. If somebody can write me a memo that shows me one or even five things that we could do within our power in those spaces that would be systemic, I would love to try them. I got into a debate with one of the authors of that letter right before one of our meetings recently. It was very short. And they said, well, why don't you just do universal basic income or guaranteed income or direct cash assistance for people? And I said, that would be great. In fact, if a coalition of people comes to the city council and brings that, I have a feeling that this conversation would go away and we would talk about guaranteed income for workers while also talking about some of the rights pieces that are inherent. The wage conversation, I mean, would go away. But if we want to do, I would love to be able to do this. We can't balance our budget. Maybe this would help, but guaranteed income for the 10,000 households in our community that are struggling, just for their utility bill, which we learned last night is a little over $300 every other month, would cost us $18 million just to do a utility bill. And people are talking about $500 a month, $1,000 a month in these pilots. The city of Olympia cannot do the lifts that are being proposed as the converse alternative to this conversation. I've been working on it for 13 years, and I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I would love it if somebody showed us another alternative. Now, I'll close just by talking about wage, because I think it's the most unfortunate thing is that this was taken to be some proposal that the council was making for a huge wage increase on the 1st of January. Never on the table. The $24 that was cited earlier was from, living wage studies. I threw a $20 number on the table and tried to get my colleagues to make a live number come out of the committee, and they threw it out. There was no number. It was all about a conversation. And I hope that we can commit to have that conversation with our community, because they're asking for it. They're demanding it on all sides. And have the conversation. I took a whole bunch of notes because I think they're awesome. Like, have the conversation be with the small business community, the labor community, have it be deliberate, have it talk about different industries and how they're impacted, have it talk about what the schedule will be so people know where they can be engaged, tie it to Olympia Strong, grounded in reality, have it include respect and dignity and be data driven, and have it listen and engage our businesses of all sizes, ensure that our allegiance is to everyone. And that's a beautiful comment. Collectively, we can do this work, and I know we can. And so I ask you to roll up your sleeves, because I came here to talk about people that are struggling, not process. But I get it. And I'm used to waiting. So that's why I'm not blowing my top. And I'm really glad that we all came here to have a discussion. So, thank you.
We will not give up.